Hey folks, Mike Dawkins from Worldcast Anglers here with your Jackson Hole fly fishing forecast for the 15th and 16th of June. When I was reporting to everyone last week that I said runoff was ripping, I wasn't kidding. I did not expect what we were going to start to see last weekend and into this week. We saw Wyoming Highway 22 on Teton Pass close and fail. We saw spiking flows and ultra high turbidity on the Snake there in Jackson that consequently affected flows getting very high and flood risk levels on the South Fork of the Snake. We saw the Teton behind me crest and start to drop with clarity increasing, and we saw Driggs on the lower Henry's Fork start all in the matter of 4 to 5 days. So it's been a wild one, and if you're like me living in this area, you're sort of ready for this week to be behind you. Looking into this weekend for your fishing opportunities, Palisades Reservoir is 98% of capacity. Jackson Lake is 99% of capacity. Look for those water managers to strive to get to that 100% fill mark here in the next couple of days. And when that happens, as we see inflow drop, we're going to see discharges matched to that inflow-outflow matching volume. So those are actually happening right now. From the time I started this report and recording my flows to the time getting out, we've already seen some changes in discharges, so be aware of that. We're on the home stretch here, so don't worry, it'll be okay. Saturday and Sunday, we had a really hot and dry week this week, very summer oriented, if not like mid-July and beginning of August. But looking into this weekend, we're going to have a lot of wind and we're going to have things cool off. We've got 72 and 44 with lots of wind tomorrow, Saturday. We've got Sunday, 66 and 46, partly cloudy. Wind is going to die down a little bit, but then Monday and Tuesday, it's going to be cold and it's going to be sort of crummy. We're going to see some daytime temperatures in the high 50s, low 60s. Looking into next weekend, those will warm back up and there'll be hot, dry conditions, true summer fashion in Jackson Hole and Teton Valley once again. The Teton behind me, 1,960 CFS. That's a lot. Normally this time of year or during the summer season, we're fishing the Teton around 400 to 600 CFS. 3,440 CFS on the lower river. As I said earlier, we've seen the Teton crest. We've seen the flows start to decrease. We've seen clarity increase. We're seeing the tributaries settle out and chill out because they were ripping and roaring this time last week. Fishing conditions, we've had some guides out on the water. We've had general angling traffic back out on the water. The challenge right now is if you can get under some of the bridges. The clarity is definitely available to fishing, but look for baits, rainy, pack saddle to be your main options this weekend on the Teton. I would throw streamers, bigger profiled bugs in darker shades that are going to show up and provide better contrast in those turbid water conditions. And dry fly fishing, there's really not much to speak of, but I've heard that the worm hatch is on out here. So you have to think with this super saturated ground, water spilling back into the river from the banks, it's turning up a lot of aquatic material. So I would vote the worm for the win on the Teton this weekend if you find yourself out on the water. The Henry's Fork, 790 CFS coming out of the Box Canyon, 1,590 CFS there on the lower river around Ashton. The salmon flies are pretty much done. We're seeing golden spread out through the river system. We're seeing caddis, some yellow sallies, a couple PMDs here and there, but we're definitely starting to see some of the drakes on the lower river. The 15th is a big day for the Henry's Fork. We've got Harriman Ranch opening up. I would be ready with a smorgasbord of a little bit of everything based on the conditions. It's going to be cool, it's going to be overcast, and it's going to be windy. So I would have some Baetis and leftover blue-ring olives that may come back out with the cooler conditions. I would have some caddis, maybe a golden stone here and there coming up from Riverside or down from the Box to be set for the Railroad Ranch and the Wood Road 16 area. South Fork of the Snake, we've got 19,000 CFS coming out of Palisades Dam, 20,500 CFS there on the lower river. As I said, we saw flows increase to 20,000. They've already been decreased down to 19,000. And I would expect substantial decreases as the week progresses on, as inflow into Palisades Reservoir starts to drop from the snake, we're going to see discharges drop from the South Fork to keep Palisades Reservoir at maximum fill, that 100%. Clarity on the South Fork of the snake right now is really good, pending everything that we've been seeing around the area. These past 5 to 10 days, as I said, runoff has ripped. So a lot of our runoff is sort of finishing up a little bit early. I'd be ready with nymphing, rubber legs, big tungsten jig pheasant tails, San Juan worms, lightning bugs, things of that nature. I would be picking large flies that are heavily weighted, that can get through the current and the Latimer flow and sit down there in those areas where you think the fish are going to be. I'd also be fishing a lot of streamers right now. As I explained with the Teton, things are turning up. There's a lot of fish, big fish out on the prow, ready to hunt, and these are great conditions to do so. These flows are high. Have your life jackets out, put them on, don't wear them. That's up to you, but they're not any good if they're sitting in your dry storage. So have them out, have them ready, be ready for some really fast floats, and just be safe out there. The Snake and Jackson, we saw those flows decrease to around 5,000 CFS from Jackson Lake Dam, 17,100 CFS there in the canyon. That's peaking down from around 21 to 20,000 CFS. So look for the Snake to sort of be in that home stretch too. We've hit the peak and we're coming down the backside of the mountain. We're going to start to see tributaries settle out. We're going to start to see clarity increase, but it's still not necessarily time for the Snake in Jackson. As flows drop there coming out of Jackson Lake, from the dam to Pacific Creek, I would say would become a much more fishy option, you know, at those times where you can actually get in there and dissect some of the water or fish below the dam with streamers, crelexes, clouser minnows, bait fish imitations on full sinking lines and things of that nature. Firehole and Madison are starting to fish really well right now. It'll probably kick into real high gear with a little bit of cooler weather that sort of stops this summer scorching heat. So I'd be ready with blueing olives. I'd be ready with PMDs. I'd be ready with caddis on the Firehole. And on the Madison, I'd fish some dry droppers with golden stones and droppers, and as well as some of those caddis, swinging soft tackles, streamers. Any of those techniques are very classic and tried and true measures on the Madison there in Yellowstone National Park. You've got some lakes and reservoirs that are starting to fish really well. Jenny Lake, Henry's Lake, you know, Lee Lake, if you want to walk into String and Lee and fish some of those, if you're looking, you know, just to stay locally or you don't want to drive around to the Henry's Fork or the South Fork. Look for those options to be legitimate here coming up for the weekend. Thanks for tuning in. The Fly Shop's open Monday through Sunday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We'd like to thank everybody for their business this time of year. It's been a trying time, but without the support of all of our customers, clients, and friends, we wouldn't be anything. So thanks so much. Be safe out there. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you here next week.